Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir. I can hear you, sir. Madam
Okay,
has
fine.
come. Chief guest, madam. Resource person, madam has come.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Vinod, sir. Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. All our students have joined.
I joined, sir. And also students are attending through YouTube, sir. Many students are joining because we are also streaming in the YouTube, the same program.
Okay. Mhm.
So there is a limitation in the Zoom, so they are watching in the YouTube also.
Okay. But other than Zoom, there are some other softwares out there, Microsoft,
Yes, yes.
Google.
Microsoft TV is
Google.
there, then WebEx is there. So everything, the limitation is there. So if you pay money subscription, then I think they are giving more users, 500 users like that.
Okay. Okay.
Shall we start, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Rahul, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Naluswamy sir told he will join. I'll check whether he has come. Whether Naluswamy joined, the host can tell.
Sir.
Sir, Sarah has joined, sir. Not Sarah has joined, sir.
Naluswamy sir? I think you can join. You can start.
Oh, yes, sir. Let me begin with a quote. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. A very warm afternoon and heartily welcome to all. We are honored to have clinical psychologist from Turiya Psychological Services, Chennai, Ms. Sandhya Shivakumar, and we are extremely happy to welcome you, ma'am. I, Rahul Dam, from Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, pursuing BTech Mechanical Department, third year, and I welcome students, dignitaries, teaching and non-teaching staffs to a very special event named COVID Vivid, which comprises of 21 days, 33 departments, and 41 events, where you will witness the overcome the challenges facing in this pandemic. Today's session is about taking care of ourselves during COVID, which is the most important than anything. In Tamil, there is a saying, "Sevuru irundadal sithiram varaya mudiyum," which means, in order to do any steps, the most important part is our presence at our utmost healthy state. Now, I welcome Professor and Head of Mechanical Department, Dr. M. Ganesan, present the welcome address.
Good afternoon to all of you. So I have great pleasure in welcoming the Ms. Sandhya Shivakumar, clinical psychologist at Chennai. So I welcome you, madam, for this program. So I have great pleasure in welcoming our Honorable Rector, Dr. D. Viswanathan of Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute. So most of you will be knowing him. He is very other parts of globe also. So he was Vice Chancellor of Anna University, and his achievements are maybe I may have to go to 10 minutes. I have to read his achievements. So that way it's a long list. But most of you will be knowing him because he was a Vice Chancellor, and he is currently in our university, and he is guiding all the departments to bring the university to the top level of international level. So in the last 3 to 4 months, he has done a lot of things to the university. And so I have great pleasure in welcoming you, sir, for this event. And also I have great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Naluswamy, who has also accepted to give felicitation address for this program. And as Rahul was telling, Mr. Rahul was telling, that today's talk is about her actual topic is taking care of self during COVID. So all of us know that we are in this situation, pandemic situation, since March 2020 onwards, nearly 1.5 years, we are in this situation. And not only students and faculties, the common public are also subjected to stress, maybe even mental stress because of various reasons. So economically, some people have been affected, and as far as the students are concerned, so they are all learning through online mode for the last 1.5 years. So they may have a lot of difficulties in learning. So it is not equivalent to your classroom teaching. So all of us will accept that. So that can be a part of teaching methodology, but it cannot be 100% methodology. So, but here since March 2020, we are adopting this online mode only, Zoom, Google Meet only, we are teaching. And students have a lot of issues in attending the class also, maybe internet issue or maybe even power problem. So, and also they are supposed to have laptop. So we cannot tell that every student is affordable for all these things, because we should think about all students, not only the creamy layer or who are all affordable. So there are a lot of issues within the students. So, and also they have to face the examination. So because we are not sacrificing or not foregoing anything. So academic activities are not at all sacrificed. So last 1.5 years, we are conducting all the academic activities as per the schedule, because we are in a stagnant position. So we are conducting all the activities, including examinations, they are getting results, everything is going on. But still, students have subjected to some mental tension also. The same way, the faculties are also, they are all working from home for maybe 1 year, and they are also having so physically and also more about the mental stress. So I think it's the right time that we have called Ms. Sandhya Sivakumar here, where she can that is give her views and also some ways of overcoming these issues. And also students, I want students to be interactive with them so that it will be very useful to not only the students but also to ourselves, teaching fraternity also. So I think I also welcome all the participants of this event, program. So now I hand over to Mr. Rahul.
Thank you for the heartily welcome, sir. I welcome the person who has consumed himself to change the life of newbreds, Rector, former Vice Chancellor of Anna University, Dr. G. Vishwanathan, sir, to put forward the inaugural address.
Thank you, Ragul. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Respected speaker of this program, Ms. Sandhya Sivakumar, distinguished faculties of the department, dear student friends, I am extremely happy to participate in this program. And today's the topic is chosen nicely to help the thousands of students who are suffering during this pandemic. I congratulate the department organizers for choosing the topic as well as the right speaker for this program. And there is no words to explain the sufferings and difficulties faced by our students. Past 1.5 years, uncertainty about their career, about their future plans, all are affected. It is not only our students throughout the world. So certain things, we need some guidance from the experts like Ms. Sandhya to overcome the issues like stress and kind of boredom, fatigue. All these things happens during these days. As institution, they require the students' attendance. Many students do not have the proper gadgets. They have to look or study through the mobile phones. 90% of the students are using mobiles. Some 10% are using laptops. But actually, I don't recommend both laptop and mobile for online learning. I suggest the students must view through the TV. Then at least their the eye problem will be solved, neck problem will be solved, and relaxed environment. So students can always switch over from mobile to TV, and every house they have a TV. They can use that gadget. So that there, some extent their stress will be relieved. Also, we are here anxious to hear from the speaker to eliminate our stress and be to concentrate more on studies and building our self-confidence during these days. If you lose the self-confidence, then naturally some kind of setback will be there. Students need some counseling, and parents also should take some interest about their students, children, and make the environment ambience comfortable for learning purpose. Even though we cannot provide or we cannot compare the classroom teaching and learning, here students are free to go through the various social medias and Google to learn about their subjects, understand their subjects, and interact with them. So I congratulate once again the speaker, and the speaker has come forward to talk to our students, and also Professor and HOD for choosing this topic. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I'm eager to learn from Ms. Sandhya Sivakumar. Thank you.
Thank you for the inspiring speech, sir. I happily welcome Joint Register Inspection, Dr. S. Nallusamy, sir, to deliver the felicitation address.
So you check whether he is available, otherwise we can go to next. You check, the host can check whether Dr. Nallusamy has joined. Yes. We told him to join, but
No, sir, is not available right now.
next agenda. Rahul, yours is muted. Rahul.
Yes, sir. I happily welcome Professor and Additional Head of Mechanical Department, Dr. N. Ejra, sir, to enlighten us with introduction of the chief guest.
Sir, audio is missing. Dr. Ethiraj, you are muted. Dr. Ethiraj, we are not able to hear you. Host, can you unmute him? Who is the host?
Sir, it's unmute only, sir. Sir,
But
but
we are not.
microphone is.
Ethiraj, sir, you check your microphone, sir.
கேக்குதா?
Okay, now it's okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's audible, sir.
No, it's already unmuted தான். Okay. Good afternoon, all of you present here. It gives me a great pleasure in introducing Mrs. Sandhya Sivakumar to the audience. Korea Psychological Services was started in 2020 by Ms. Sandhya Sivakumar, a passionate clinical psychologist who has gathered knowledge through 9 years of education in this field. She holds double master's degree after graduating from King's College London in UK, as well as Women's Christian College Chennai, where she specialized in counseling psychology. She has completed a MPhil in clinical psychology, consisting of 2 intensive years of clinical training from Sri Ramchandra Medical College Chennai. She has been trained to help individuals with psychological difficulties, including those associated with some medical and neurological conditions. Presently, She is pursuing her PhD in Women's Christian College, Chennai. In her clinical practice, she works with individuals across all age groups, having a range of mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, adjustment issues, relationship issues, and scholastic difficulties. Thank you, and I welcome Ms. Sandhya Sivakumar. Over to Rahul. Thank you.
Thank you for the enlightenment, sir. Now, I gratefully welcome clinical psychologist from Turiha Psychological Services, Chennai, Ms. Sandhya Sivakumar ma'am, to nurture us with taking care of ourselves during COVID.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It was very nice getting to know all of you from so many esteemed, backgrounds, and to be able to address students. It's not very long ago that I was a student myself, and in some way I am one still with my PhD. So it's an absolute pleasure talking to all of you, and I have done these COVID-related mental health, care webinars before with other organizations, and I get all these questions and how to take care and how to sort of get through this phase. And I think it gives me a lot of satisfaction to be able to address a large gathering and maximize the amount of help that I can provide at this point in time, because each of us have different issues going on right now. So what I'll be doing is I have a PPT and I will just do a brief presentation of the areas that we can generally touch upon given the current scenario. And I'm more than happy to take any area specific questions, like whether it's related to academics or study habits, exams, anything after the presentation. And feel free to stop me at any point in time. It's just to give you a background of what self-care is like and mental health needs and issues that might come up as part of COVID and so on. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I hope you'll be able to see it.
Yes.
Can somebody let me know if you can see?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So, oops. Okay. This is visible, right?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, great. All right. So just a quick look on what mental health needs have come to today. So we're looking at a 20 to 50% increase in the kind of mental health related issues that have come up, just like what Sir mentioned, in the past 1.5 years. And it has been affecting different age groups differently, like one of them rightly pointed out. For students, especially to do with exams, studying, to do online prep. First of all, to keep looking at the screen and then to learn from the screen and then to write the exam on the screen. So it's a whole lot of exertion that happens for students, especially, and for young children at home. I'm sure if you have brothers or sisters who are much younger, going out and playing, socializing, mingling with other children have all become an issue. No time to go to the park or just downstairs in your own community. And for older people, it probably gets worse because there is a question of mobility, like if they want to take a little walk outside, or if they want to just get some fresh air to, feel better, their quality of life might come down because of this. So there is the impact of COVID differently for different people. For those of them who are working, I'm sure all the men here can relate to the women taking care of home-related chores and working, working women as well, and vice versa. So the way COVID has impacted is, in the sense, causing burnout, causing fatigue, tiredness, lot of anxiety. How long is this going to last, and when is it even going to get over? Is this the new normal, which many people are talking about? and sleep disturbances. So there is a lot of things that are coming as, you know, the whole package of not just health related, which is COVID, but also mental health related. Now, of course, frontline workers, COVID tested positive. All of them have their own share of work that they need to be doing. For example, if you look at frontline workers, it's being there day in and day out, neglecting their own health, whether it's physical or mental health. The care and concern of their parents, their family members, to see what if they get affected. Many people, I'm sure you've all heard, get affected once, and then, you know, that even though they may be vaccinated, they get affected once more. So it deteriorates the condition even more. And COVID positive, it's the question of self-isolation, quarantine. There is also a lot of stigma that's associated with it, especially during the first wave when, people stuck, the government, they stuck the posters outside people's houses saying this person is COVID positive, don't go near and all that. So I've had a lot of people come and tear all that near in my neighborhood. So they don't want to tell, and then a lot of people say, you know, I was affected, but don't tell anyone, and so on. Some people don't even want to take the test once more and see if they're negative, because they're like, yeah, I got it, and then so what? After this, I don't want to check again. So there is a internalized discrimination or stigma that is, developed as a part of being tested positive. And for the general population, of course, people who are working, and also for who are not working, people who are not affected, just knowing the fact that, you know, your neighbor or your family member or your friend is affected itself is bad enough. And then comes the families of COVID-19 affected individuals. So the walks up and down to the ICU, and I believe the discharge procedure is a big deal. And once, if at all somebody has passed away, then the whole routine of having to get your papers signed and the cremation and everything is extremely taxing. And there is no, limit on, in terms of when is it going to get over. So that is something that adds a lot of burden in terms of mental health. Now, what are the disorders that we're generally looking at? Depression, anxiety, PTSD, sleep disturbance, suicide-related risk, psychotic disorders. So these may be prevalent among people who already have pre-existing mental health conditions. But for those who don't have any mental health conditions, how do you know that somebody is being burdened? Or how do you know that somebody needs help, or somebody can benefit from talking to a professional? How do you identify that, right? So you need to be looking for these things. And I will also tell you about, even if these things are present, how do you identify whether it's problematic? Like, these things about anxiety and uncertainty is actually at this point normalized. They say that, the tolerance to ambiguity, not everyone has the same amount or level. So the anxiety and uncertainty generally has to be normalized in order for the person to accept that this is reality. So that is one thing. And then the loneliness and sadness, where you're either quarantined or self-isolated, or just that you have to be shut, in within four walls, and feeling of helplessness, frustration, because you can't step out. And then if you step out, I think the cops during the first wave was, they were very strict, but this time they've mostly left it to themselves, to us, and said that, help yourself. Change in eating, sleeping pattern, substance use, in case, anybody is vulnerable to use of alcohol, drugs. And of course, always Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all social media is full of COVID related information. Whether you turn on the TV for news or anything, even on YouTube, if you turn on some video, there'll be an ad that pops up about COVID related safety. Or you make a call to someone, first that entire line will be about COVID, and then only the ring even goes. So there is a lot of trigger for people to think about COVID. And finally, the exacerbation of already existing mental health issues. So if, especially for people having obsessive compulsive disorder related to contamination, this cleaning and sanitizing and making sure that there are no germs or, transmission of the virus and everything is a nightmare for a lot of people. So here, when do we think that this is problematic? You'll have to keep these things in mind. One is to have trouble focusing in daily activities. So when a person is having attention difficulties, it's extremely normal because it could be related to how prepared they are about doing the task, or about how difficult the task is, or how long it takes, what time of the day is it, have they slept well, um, are they burnt out. So we have a lot of factors which influence how attentive a person can be. But if this attention persists, attention difficulties persist over all kinds of tasks and for a longer period of time, not just like 1 or 2 days or even a week or so, but if it's much longer, coming in the way of the person's productivity. So let's say they're not able to meet deadlines, or they're not able to submit something that when they were supposed to, or they're not able to come to an exam, or they're leaving an exam paper blank, or they have very reduced interest in studying. So when these things happen, then they have to reevaluate how they're going about their studying pattern and their academic aspect of things. And of course other things, for example, if even if you have not slept well, attention problems can come in. So when you have trouble focusing for a while, you have to take a minute to understand where this is coming from. Excessive and uncontrolled anxiety is the question of what if this happens, what if this person says this, what if I fail, what if I'm not able to do this, or what if somebody gets COVID. So at that point there is a lot of uncontrolled anxiety and uncontrolled future predictions that people make based on the worst possible scenario, because all that we hear is about either sickness or death or somebody being ill usually, and the intense feeling that interfere with everyday activities. So sometimes whether it's just anxiety or anger, frustration, being sad, any feelings that you're experiencing very intensely, that some of them in the recent past, especially after COVID, some of my clients have engaged in self-harm and abuse of alcohol, just wanting to numb themselves and go to sleep. So these kind of intense feelings that are interfering with everyday activity, like you're not feeling like you want to wake up from bed because every day it's the same mundane routine. So when these things are happening, then you'll have to take help. Then emotions become unmanageable. So you have unhealthy coping, which is what I mentioned right now, to do with either drugs, alcohol, or lashing out on other people, becoming very angry, and even self-harm for that matter. And finally, the helpless, hopeless feeling, that is, nothing is going to change. This is how it's all going to be. Hereafter, this is, everyone is saying this is the new normal. I just have to deal with it and move on. So basically, giving up on your goals or giving up on a possible optimistic future that you may have otherwise expected. Related to this, I can think of an example. One of my clients actually came in saying that he wanted to apply for someplace abroad in Canada, I think. And he said everything is gone down the drain, but I have just found myself a part-time job. I'm still studying. I should have finished my college, but by now my semester got delayed, exam got delayed, so my results have not come out, which means I'm not able to apply abroad. And then I'm finding myself a job just to feel productive when I'm doing it. But my parents don't think that I'm good enough doing what I'm doing right now, because according to them, you should have gone by now. You should have been there and started your course by now. So it's almost as if, he came in saying that I don't think I can even comprehend why anybody is not supportive of this situation. And I feel very hopeless, like nothing's going to change. What's the point of me studying and graduating and finishing all this? Because that's it. It's over. My, admission date has passed, and so on. So he got diagnosed of depression with other symptoms in mind. So generally, it's very easy for people to feel bogged down by these emotions, especially because they had a vision, it's not going that way, and then they feel helpless when a lot of things around them are becoming uncontrollable. So this is when it's problematic. Now, quick, glance on why is it that some people experience this period as stressful, and why is it that other people are able to overcome it in a better way, even if not like the best way compared to everybody else. So stress appraisal is something that we should keep in mind while looking at a situation as, is it stressful or is it something that I can manage? So stressful situations can be thought of in three ways. One is a threat, harm, and then a challenge. Challenge is at a point when the person thinks, okay, you know what, I can do this. I'm going to see what all I can do about this, and I'm going to try put all my best effort and my resources in it, and go ahead with it. And threat is something that is, vigilant. The person is vigilant, and something is there in their environment which is going to harm them immediately. That is, I'm probably going to fail this exam, or I don't think I'm going to be able to complete this syllabus, or I think this is not manageable because I can't manage time. So those kind of things are threat. Harm is basically in the future. If the situation is like this, how is it going to harm me in the future? Maybe I may run out of jobs to get, or I may not be as successful as my friends because of the situation. So things like that. When you think of the future, how do you perceive today's situation as a threat, challenge, or harm? So the moment a person does this, then they come to the step of what resources do I have right now with me to cope? Whether it's my organization skills, whether it's my time management, whether it's my resilience, whether it's my optimistic thinking, positive thinking, whether it's my stress tolerance, whether it's my frustration tolerance. So there are so many different, qualities that a person has, which they can mobilize as resources and say, these are all my strengths, and I'm going to be able to overcome this threat, harm, or challenge successfully. So once that happens, then the person feels more at peace, and they are like, okay, now let's move on. So the people who tend to feel very stressed out or anxious during this phase are mainly people whose threat perception and harm perception is very high, and they may perceive that they don't have enough personal resources or even social support and environmental support, or even like what sir was mentioning, the economic support, where they look at computers and they have that basically the facility to go on. So if all these resources are not there for me, then I'm going to think that I'm not able to manage the situation better. So for most part of it, these are the reasons why some people look at it as challenge, some people look at it as threat or harm. And the next thing would be the personal journey that people have in COVID, which is the grief, loss, or trauma, whether it's to do with personal loss of your family member, or friends, or somebody who's lost somebody, or somebody went to the ICU and then they had a lot of what do I say, very bad sickness, and then they revived and they recovered. That would be qualified as trauma, and so on. So typically, this is the graph. There is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So, but the only thing is, people don't travel through this cycle, the same order. It's not a linear order. Generally, it can be that first the person is either depressed, and then they become very angry that this should not have happened, and then they deny that no, this is not happening. It's fine. Like, this person will come back. And then they may go to why me, why is this happening to me? And then finally accept that this has happened. So typically when this happens, if you notice all of our, traditions and rituals that come with death related formalities, it actually has a very strong support system value. So there is a 3rd day, 10th day, 13th day, 16th day, and so on. Different, communities practice it differently. But the whole point is for people to come together. And when people come together and actually mourn, this mourning is a very cathartic process where, along with social support, the person is encouraged to a point where they can accept and say, okay, this has actually happened. I'm sitting with everyone here and I'm crying. So this means that person does not exist anymore. And a lot of the rituals that are involved in the tradition of the death related formalities actually also mark these things. So because of COVID, obviously, I think about 5 people are allowed for cremation and so on, and you're hardly allowed to even see the person who's passed away. So this whole natural grief process is markedly cut down, and the person is just told, yeah, okay, this person passed away, now deal with it. Or hardly doctors have time for anything, and family members are themselves shattered and fatigued with a whole lot of things happening around them. So each person is almost always left to themselves to deal with this. People have lost multiple family members at the same time, or know people who have become orphaned and so on. So this is one more area that we have to deal with, other than our own personal, work or academics related issues. And then comes the concept of secondary trauma. That is, even if the person is not directly affected, we have this innate need to go and be there for other people, to be able to listen to them, to be able to give them a ear. Now, this also has a psychological impact, because the person vicariously experiences, that is through modeling, that is through just seeing the person go through something, is bad enough to leave a scar on you. So this is called as an act of invisible loss. That is, even if you have not lost anyone yourself, it is possible that you experience emotions that are as bad as actually having to lose somebody from your end, simply because you've seen someone go through it and you're being there for them, which causes compassion fatigue. Right? So that itself is like, you don't want to move around, you don't want to socialize much, you don't want to reach out. So these can be manifested as compassion fatigue. And then comes the survival guilt. So this also, some people have sought out help to me for, where they say that nothing, I mean, I'm sitting at home, I'm safe, and everything is going decently okay in my life, and I'm feeling guilty that I'm at home, I'm not dealing with anything in the front outside there directly. There are doctors who are doing this day in and day out. There are other healthcare workers, there are my friends who are suffering, their family members, but nothing happened to me. I'm sitting inside the house and I'm guilty that I've actually survived the whole thing by myself and without any significant disturbances. So then the person starts to feel guilty. This is also a very common phenomena that's happening right now. So moving on to how to deal with this loss and grief to start with. One is definitely not give up on the concept of mourning and the death related rituals, because that's what brings people together. So even if it is online, just organize it, make sure people talk about them, think of them in a positive light, and at your own will, and to the extent that you're comfortable, you can participate in these rituals, just to acknowledge that you care, or that you're available, and that you're present over there, and as a matter of respect. But you don't have to force yourself that you have to feel better, you have to be okay with it, you have to buck up and be there for the other person. If you're not feeling it, just be compassionate towards yourself, because it's extremely normal to feel burnt out or lose your personal resources easily at this point, because the body reaches a state of exhaustion at a certain period of time. Don't isolate yourself, in the sense, see, even if you want to stay indoors inside the room, don't lock your doors really. Make sure that people feel comfortable to walk in and out. If you don't want to talk to people, if you want to just keep to yourself, communicate that clearly to your family members or your friends, instead of lashing out on them, saying, I told you, you're so irritating, don't come in front of my face, and so on. Don't pressure yourself to feel otherwise. That is, we cannot fight reality at this point, honestly, whether it's to do with work or academics or personal life. There is a lot of interpersonal distress that's causing a lot of couples wanting divorce, a lot of parents not being able to be good to their children. There's a lot of scope for abuse, a lot of scope for harsh parenting, and so on. And among people who have lost their family member or friends, the loss is real. So please don't try to fight it. You feel whatever you feel. So even the diagnostic manual and everything that we use for psychiatric patients and everything, they are all the makers of it are actually reconsidering the whole concept of grief right now, because the symptoms or the features of it seem to be lasting for much more than when it's supposed to be. So earlier we used to diagnose a certain disorder if it persisted for 3 months, and then some other kinds of disorder if it persisted for 6 months. But right now they say there is really no bar to it. You can mourn for even 1 year. It's up to you. So this radical acceptance of, I have to deal with it, but I'm not going to fight what happened, is very important. And finally, the sense of universality. It's not that you're alone in this. Some people may feel like their feelings are being invalidated by saying, yeah, it's not just you, it's also somebody else. So many other people are losing it. Why are you, acting like everything's happening only to you? Another way of looking at this is, I'm not alone in this. My grief is shared by a lot of people around me as well. So I'm one among them. So let me grieve with them instead of feeling that I'm being invalidated when people say that it's not just you. And for those who are talking to people who have experienced loss, you need to give them space. Of course, it would be wonderful if you can check on them now and then and just be there for them. But if they are not willing to tell you or speak to you about what actually happened, it's okay. It is not to be taken as they don't want to tell you, or they're not friends with you, or they don't like your company or anything, but simply because they may want their space. And validating their feelings. Some of them say no. Some of them have this guilt of having brought COVID into the house in the first place, because of which their other family members got affected, and some may have lost their family members. So it's not that you did it on purpose, and when you brought it in, you did not know what it was, or how it was happening, where it came in from. None of that. So your feelings are really your feelings, which you are allowed to carry with you. It's totally worth it. So if you are talking to someone who's lost, a person in their family or friend, um, even if they may have been the one that was a carrier in the first place, please validate their feelings without blaming them or telling them that they should not have gone out or done a few things in the first place. And finally, if you're not sure of some information, please don't provide it. Even if you don't know, don't say, instead of giving some wrong information. And coming to the general kind of coping skills, we're looking at self-care, which I will elaborate a little bit more later. Circle of control is one thing that even I also use, and I think it works wonders. So I think you can see the picture right here. There are two circles. One is the circle that you can control. The outside is a circle that you cannot control. So if you look at the things I can control in the context of academics, for example, you can control, say, things like how well you study, or how much you can study, how long you can spend on preparing, or whether you can show up at class every day, whether you choose to attend to some class or not attend, or you don't have control over, that is the outside circle, when college is going to reopen, when you may be seeing your friends again, or anything of that sort. But that doesn't mean you should stop yourself from connecting with your friends either through phone or video meetings and so on. So once you have a clear demarcation of what you can control and what you can't control, it would rather do good to you to let go, meaning not give up, but let go of it being in the circle of worry for you. Rather, you would rather plan on what you can control, things like your attitude, how much TV you watch, how seriously you take studies, or how much you limit your social media, or how kind you are to yourself. So if these are things you can control, then please definitely focus on working on that. And setting goals. Setting goals is very important, because goals are actually obviously the future oriented. So it gives you a sense of hope, and it gives you a sense of optimism, and say, okay, at one point I'll be able to get to that, and I will feel, I will work towards it and feel better when I can achieve it. So goals can be short term or long term. Short term can be something like even a personal health goal, like I will lose so many kilos, or I will start a healthy diet, or I should have done this much of work by this period of time. So that is short term. Long term will be, okay, if I could not go to study this year, or I could not get a job this year, what can I do to build my resume? What other kind of activities can I do to make sure that I have proved on my resume that I've been working on myself. And of course, also the consideration that worldwide this is happening, and nobody is going to hold it against you and say that why did you sit at home for 1 year. So as much as you're valid in thinking that you were going to do something, and maybe that didn't happen as soon or as quickly as you thought it would, look at it in the larger context of life. On an average, if we are all going to live for 70, 75, 80 years, then 2 to 3 years might hardly make a difference at that point in time. So your goals may be delayed a bit, but you do not yet know what opportunity will come your way at a point where you may have to make a decision regarding your academics or your career. And what if spiraling is another thing. That is the question of this counterfactual hypothetical situation. That is, what if I never land myself a job? What if I'm not able to finish the semester? What if I'm not able to take this exam? What if my university is not going to take me in because my grade looks bad here? Whole lot of what ifs that might be coming in. How much of that what if is relevant to today is something that you'll have to evaluate and see whether the anxiety that is associated with the what if fear and question has any evidence. That is, if I'm thinking, what if I fail this exam? Now look at your past history. Look at how much you've been giving time to prepare, how much you're able to recall or study or focus. If all this is going well, then it does not make sense to think about what if I fail. So when you're having this kind of an anxiety or fear, make sure you think of the past history and the current activities or the events that's going in your life today, and whether that validates or justifies the kind of anxiety that you've been having related to the outcome. And then comes the limiting information that you consume. Social media, everybody's on it because there is so much time, and in fact people are online, then they want to take a break, so they go watch TV, and after they watch TV they just want to surf media and then go back to class. So it's just gadget everywhere, and there is a lot of cognitive, like mental fatigue that happens because of switching so many gadgets. And ideally a break should be a no gadget or no stimulation time, like preferably not engage with anything around you. So not even like reading a book or anything of that sort, which requires mental effort of multiple things. Maybe things like just sitting idle, closing your eyes, focusing on your breathing, or listening to music, and so on can be helpful. So try not to engage in 2-3 activities in between your breaks if you're taking online classes or if you're studying like that. And finally, yeah, don't let COVID-19 dominate your conversation. As much as we're trying to connect to people, call them up, to keep in touch and everything, COVID is there, but there are also other things other than COVID which are going well in people's lives. So please do talk about that as well. And positive reframing is one technique that I also find extremely helpful. So if you've been thinking that, my friends and I can't see each other, then there is a way of reframing that positively to think that my friends and I are protecting each other. Obviously, because if you went and met your friend, you would be infecting them if at all, you're quarantined. And I'm stuck at home. I'm safe at home. I've lost all my freedom. I've relinquished my freedom for a noble purpose, which is obviously saving another person's life. I miss the things I love. I'm increasing my gratitude for the things I love. So next time you want to, go out shopping in person or go to a movie theater or go out to a restaurant and eat, you know how valuable that kind of an outing with a family or a friend is. And maintaining a good sleep cycle and routine. This is extremely important. So obviously, I think most of you know that sleep is a time then that the body rejuvenates itself, and there's a lot of repair of wear and tear that's going on. So half your problem during the day, whether it's to do with focusing or listening or being able to be productive, managing your time, half of all of these problems are solved if you get good sleep. But the problem is people tend to procrastinate sleeping as if it's something that you can just do whenever you want because it's something you want to do. Like you have control over when you sleep, when you don't sleep. But other things like heartbeat or digestion or going to the bathroom and things like that are things that are understood as if you don't have control over it. But sleep is one biological function that most of us tend to neglect simply because you can do it whenever you want to and wherever you want to. But that is very unhealthy because a lot of neurotransmitters in the body, which is like dopamine, acetylcholine, and then serotonin, all of these are to do with paying attention, memory, feeling good, rewarded, motivation. All of these get disrupted when you don't sleep well. And having a routine is also very important because in such an unpredictable world where you hardly have any control over what's happening right now, it gives you a sense of control to have a routine and say, okay, my day is going to go like this. I have managed my time like this. I can plan this during this time. So you have something that you're in a cycle, so the biological clock and a routine is always helpful for your body, like how when a lot of us, I think, wish that we can wake up even without alarms, and the first thing that we do when we wake up is to look at the phone. So that itself actually comes in the way of your sleep, because alarm coming in the way of your sleep, definitely, because if you're sleeping well and then it gets disrupted, or you sleep in too late, and then you're not able to get through the day because you're feeling groggy and fatigued the whole time. So a routine will help you, balance all of these things as well and give you a sense of control and predictability. And avoid conversations or news around bedtime. Very helpful, I would say, because it leaves you with unnecessary things to think about and worry. So like your activities in the clock of your day should be from most active to slowly calming down the tempo of your activity, and then finally slowing down to just be ready to go to bed. So time your activities in that sense. And work life balance is something that most of the people today are having an issue with, simply because you work in the same place, you live in the same place, you eat in the same place, everything is in the same place. Small things like having boundaries, whether it's I actually encourage some of my clients to even dress up like they're actually going to work. Even if they're at home, they wake up in the morning, they dress up like they're going to work, they enter one room and they sit there, and while taking breaks they step out and come back in, and there are fixed timings. And one of my other clients ended up having a lot of anxiety because he allowed his students to message him even at midnight to ask for doubts. And they were having some tests, and the students would read at midnight and everything. And in the morning, he would wake up and feel like he hasn't slept properly and so on. Why? Because he's clarifying doubts at night for these students, at midnight, even though they should technically not be waking up like that and studying. But even if they do, then don't allow that work to come into your personal life. So things like keeping your phone away for a while, or having a fixed time at which you will switch off all gadget related activities. And finally, of course, when it comes to boundaries, you also have to think about whether you will be sitting in the sofa and working, or whether you will go to a dining table, or whether you'll be on the bed. So if you eat, sleep, drink, work, everything on the bed, then there is no concept of boundary, and that will just make you feel groggy. So please make sure that if you have the space in the house, utilize it by moving around differently to always sit in the same place and work during the day. And take frequent breaks. Take breaks every 20 to 40 minutes. Take a 10-minute break. Like I said, don't do much in between the two breaks. Just conserve your energy. And beyond all of this, we have to find hope and hold on to things around us, simply by recognizing that whatever it is today is temporary. People may call it the new normal, but that is only for the purpose of adaptation. And like I said, in the number of years that we all may live, the 2 years or 3 years may hardly matter in the long run, but what will matter more is actually the impact that it's had on all of us. And people will take a long time to recover from this. So, prevention definitely is better than having to do damage control. And yeah, of course, seek mental health, professional help if required. And some of the things that you can think about in terms of reflection, about your own personality is, do you have the psychological flexibility? Like if you're someone who's very organized, very planned, and say this I have to do only at this kind of a time, would you be okay to become a little more flexible in that thinking? So not having that rigidity in thinking. And some people are frustrated that no, things should not be like this. Just because somebody is affected, why should I pay the price for it? Why am I sitting at home, and why am I not able to travel? I'm supposed to be in the peak of my 20s. I should be traveling everywhere. I have everything ready, my suitcase, my money, I have destination, but I'm not able to leave. I'm sitting at home and this feels like a vacation, but I'm not taking one. So all these rigidities in thinking is something that you'll have to see if you have, and if you do, then that's definitely one of the culprits that's contributing to your dissatisfaction. And the black and white style of processing is like not allowing any gray space in life. It's like saying, if I'm not doing this, then I'm bad, or if I do this, then I'm good, or if I'm not able to complete my task on time, then I'm a failure. So people have high standards or expectations out of themselves without a consideration of the context in which we're living today, or the condition. Everything is unpredictable. So if you have that black and white style of thinking where something is right, wrong, acceptable, healthy, unhealthy, versus the exact opposite of all of that, you will lack a lot of self-compassion, kindness, and so on. And if you have a history of mental health issues, or if you have been a victim of adverse life experiences like parental abuse or neglect and so on, it's definitely essential that you take this time to get help to work on it. And this aspect of self-directedness and self-control is very important in allowing a person to organize work. So self-directedness is nothing but, without any external supervision or guidance, how much am I able to get through a task till the very end. So somebody does not always have to keep coming behind me and saying that, finish your studies. Did you complete this, work today? Don't you have a deadline to meet? Or, when are you going to start with your project? So these may be things that we're constantly hearing from outside. And self-control, obviously not being able to keep a timeline on how much a phone you use, or how much time you spend on, say, talking to friends, or how much time you spend on other gadgets. So when a person lacks self-control and is very low on self-directedness, they may find themselves slacking, not being able to plan, not being able to deliver or feel productive. And that ends up in a vicious cycle of feeling guilty, feeling low, and then denial of the problem. Some will say, yeah, I'm perfectly fine anyway, it's okay, I'm not going to make a big difference. But on the inside they may feel like they're losing out on a lot, and that they're not able to be as good as their friends. And finally, the substance use, where we may know of family members or friends who are experiencing withdrawal symptoms, or having difficulty controlling their urge to drink or smoke, or smoking or drinking for the sake of coping with the current situation, where they may have financial loss, economic loss, and so on. So just to deal with it, engage in these kind of habits. And like I said, self-care, I wanted to elaborate on it in a little more. Self-kindness and self-compassion, we have to develop the capacity to be nice to ourselves. If somebody else came and told you that I'm going through all of this and I'm feeling extremely fatigued, extremely anxious, I don't know what to do, we will automatically say, it's okay, take a chill pill, it's okay, you can just cool off, you'll be okay, don't worry, give it some time, it's all going to be fine. So these are kind words that we might be using to them. And now it's very essential, this is the time for us to use all this on ourselves as well. So beating yourself up just because you have not done something which you should have is not the answer to self-care. And like I already mentioned, having a predictable routine. Movement is very important. Movement is also associated with the secretion of dopamine, which is in turn associated with motivation and being able to pay attention. So just any kind of exercise, whether it's stretching or 20 minutes of cardio or whatever it is very essential. Taking care of pre-existing mental health conditions, like I said, getting your psychiatric medication, correctly, or if you've already had some issues and got exacerbated during this time, please take help. And time away from others for more than 5 hours. This is a very interesting concept. It's called expressed emotions. That is, we all have like a threshold, and research has proven that any time over 5 hours constantly in the face of other family members can result in a lot of conflicts and criticism and bitterness between people. So if you are someone who is living in a smaller space, or don't have much of opportunities to step out in a community or so on, please make sure you have at least a few minutes for yourself, with yourself, especially if you have to end up spending more than 5 hours with your family member for some reason. And I think I already elaborated. Sleep hygiene is one thing that you definitely have to keep in mind. Things like not having caffeine, after 6 o'clock in the evening, making sure that you're not bringing your phone to your bed. You can use your phone till whatever time you want. That's perfectly fine. But don't have the habit of using phone on your bed. And things like eating on your bed, and so on. So these are things that you can keep in mind. If you're not able to fall asleep, move away from your bed and go to another place, and only when you're sleepy go back to your bed, and try and sleep and wake up at the same time every day, at least for 2 weeks. What happens is that you end up having accumulated sleep deprivation, which itself is good way of putting yourself to sleep much earlier. So some people do this thing of I haven't slept well last night, so let me sleep during the day. So and then you'll end up sleeping till sometime in the evening, and then you wake up sometime late evening, and then you're not able to fall back asleep that night. So it's a vicious cycle like that. And please avoid naps in the afternoon as well. So these are some of the sleep hygiene. The final word of mental health in COVID. One is, it has definitely made all of us very resilient. We could not imagine that we'll be able to sit through, being at home all day long for so many months together, and still run a home, still carry on with our, day-to-day lives too, even if not in the most efficient fashion, but people are getting through this every day. So that is a great amount of resilience. And like I mentioned, the gratitude that the little things that we do hereafter will definitely add a lot more value in our life. And the sense of universality that it's not just us, like Sir mentioned, everybody in the world is going through this. And lastly, the fact that you can be anything you want, but if you don't have good health and mental health, nothing will be worth it. So this is one final learning that we've had as COVID teaching us. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you all for listening, and I do hope to, take some questions or clarifications or hear your comments. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Rahul,
Rahul, are you there?
not the questioning, Sri Krishnan. You are the moderator for the questioning.
Yeah, yes, ma'am has since finished her presentation. So anyone who is having queries can ask, they can unmute their mic and they can ask a question.
Participants can unmute their mic and ask the questions.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Rohit here.
Hello. Yes.
Ma'am, my voice is clear?
Yes.
Ma'am, I noticed last time you told closing to your presentation, sleep time. But ma'am, who are having rotating shift?
I'm so sorry. Somebody else is talking.
So please mute, all of you mute, except the.
No, ma'am. None office ma'am. So colleagues
Yeah. Tell me, sir. No, there's a crosstalk. Somebody else is not muted, so I could not hear you. Yes, you said something about sleep.
Okay. Yes. Who are having rotating shift now? So what can we do for sleep? You told na 2 weeks minimum should be same time wake up and sleeping. So we have a 2 day rotating shift na. So that case what we can do?
Morning and night shift.
Yes, ma'am. 2 day. There is we have 2 day alternate shift. 2 day morning, then 2 day evening, then 2 day night shift. For that case, what we can do our best for.
Okay. Do you have a day off?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. 1 day only we have.
Okay. So,
Six
how is
double.
your quality of sleep in the night, in the morning? How is your quality of sleep?
Sleep, ma'am. Okay, but you told na minimum 2 week you should keep same time of sleeping and same time of wake up. That's my query.
Yeah, but because you're doing that job, it's not possible to maintain sleep routine, right? It's
Right,
very
right,
high risk job actually.
right. Yes.
Yeah. So it can interfere with your sleep cycle, and sometimes if the person has a lot of high stress work in this kind of a sleep shift, that is night shift, day shift work, can lead to insomnia at some point later. So you have to actually, if it is possible, please reconsider. I don't know, it is very unhealthy to have that. As long as you are able to manage the stress from the work and have some time for yourself, what are your leisure activities, your relaxation activities, if you're able to maintain all that, then it's okay. But if you have difficulty even with that, and you have to look at other things like family history of any mental health problems or any anxiety, any depression, anything, then you have to be more careful. But it is a high risk job biologically, the cycle changing, it is a high risk job.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? You can ask the question.
Ma'am,
Yes.
what is your advice to schools and colleges and also to students when it's being reopened?
When sorry, last
When it's being reopened.
When the college is reopened.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, obviously the protocol is something that we are all looking at following. The hand washing and the mask and the social distancing. It may be very difficult to withhold yourself from hugging a friend, or putting your arm around a friend, or sharing food, or holding hands. It may be very difficult to all of that, to stop yourself from doing all of that. But it is something that we have to come to acceptance with, so please keep that in mind. Actually speaking, I think Modi ji also initially he said, no, our tradition is to do namaskaram, not go and hug people, which is something that we brought in from Western world. So maybe just look at it as a way of trying to get back your culture just temporarily to save yourselves. And further than that, just being around. So I have had some clients who have taken this kind of mistake of their other friends, saying that they don't talk to me the same way anymore, or they're not maybe spending time with me as much as before, or have I become less of a friend, and so on. So please recognize that each person is going through their own difficulties during this point. Just because somebody did not pick up your call, or just because somebody did not agree to meet you at a certain point in time in college, or whether it's outside or whatever, doesn't mean it has to always be something about what you did, or that they're not as good a friend as they were before. So be considerate and as much as possible non-judgmental about listening to their stories, or looking at how they may have taken mental health related issues during the pandemic. They may have sought help, maybe. So ensure you don't stigmatize all of that. So keep an open mind, because everybody is going to be excited about meeting each other and seeing everything, and we will talk all positive things. If it has been difficult for people, please just acknowledge and leave it at that. And when people are talking to you, don't jump to give to solutions. Sometimes people just want to give a ear, they just want you to listen, that's all. So keep these things in mind when you're socializing with people. Of course, there are some people that we have as best friends, and that it never matters. You can pick up where you left off. So, but for others, these are some things that you can keep in mind while socializing, emotionally and physically.
Thank you, ma'am. There is one question in the chat box. It is asked like if third wave comes or not, how it is given like it's ma'am, if third wave has comes or not. I mean,
Okay,
they're asking the psychological aspect of this third wave, I think.
Right.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so third wave, I think looks like might be there because once everything opens up, everybody will go back to being with each other, personal contact and everything. But again, psychologically speaking, one, we already have a history of the first wave and the second wave. We know how to handle ourselves in pandemic right now, especially inside the four walls. And the second thing being at that point in the window between the second wave and the third wave, many of us may have relocated to a place that we wanted to in the first place, or we may have been able to achieve some of our goals by then. If not also, our body by now and our mind by now has for most part of it adapted mostly to take on the third wave as well. So we have an idea that the first wave was for so long, second wave was for so long, and the third wave might be a certain way, right? And we can also learn from other countries how they are taking this forward. So things like I believe US does not encourage wearing mask anymore unless you want to. If you're vaccinated, you can avoid wearing it and so on. So third wave is also about how you want to take charge of the situation. Do you want to be safe? Do you want to be able to follow these rules and make sure your close ones are safe? So it becomes very intrinsic rather than dependent on external rules like punishment of paying fine or not having a lockdown at a certain time. Instead of all that, it becomes about how you want to carry yourself, right, more than anything else. So that is something you can keep in mind. So possibly third wave might be there, but I think I'm fairly hopeful that we will be much more resilient and quite adapted by then, and understand that how we should conduct ourselves at that point.
No, I'm Dr. Etraj.
Yes,
actually, now the student community is following some procedures in attending the classes and doing the exams and all. So even after the COVID is over, I think bringing them back to the usual classroom, either to the school or to the college, is going to be a real challenge, isn't so? And if it is, how to go about? Even though we are talking about hybrid, but beyond that, how to bring these people back to the classroom?
You mean to say in terms of
psychologically they are set now, so they don't want to come to the college now at present or school, so they are tuned to this. So now suppose if the college reopens or school reopens, I don't think so they will come like before. Maybe in a different fashion.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I mean, it is one habituation because people are just used to being at home right now. And it's much easier, the things that were not possible to even imagine that we can do from home are now the way of life and everything. But like I said, it comes from the recognition that this is temporary and that is actually the normal. So we have to be able to distinguish between people who are just saying it for excuse just because they want to sit at home and they're okay to just carry on with this, versus people who have genuine fear that this is something that might affect me. I don't know how I'm going to go back and face the environment, or what if it's the threat perception of the germs being around a lot more and so on. So I think with a fair consideration of both, it has to be a gradual process. It may happen through various means, like some people will be a little more daring or a little more accepting that, oh, okay, yay, like schools have started, colleges have started, let me step out. Other people will come when they hear positively about it, that they feel better coming back, they feel better that they're able to see physically and stay connected. So they say, why don't you also come, and so on. Other people may just watch things become better and then come. Some people may not be willing to come because of parental approval or any other factors like that, where they feel, no, I don't think I can come in. But eventually, sir, I think everybody should be able to get back once that becomes the way of life again once more. But just a gradual phasing out period may be difficult initially, but students have to be what do I say, more hopeful about having a good experience once they come back, because right now I think most people have forgotten what it's like to go back to classroom and sitting at home and doing all of this. So I think just remembering that that was actually the normal and this is just a adaptive phase is something that can help them reconcile. Of course, initially there'll be a bit of, oh no, I don't want to go back, and I don't think I want to go and see those faces again. I can just do whatever I want and I'm sitting here. So those kind of attitudes also are there for some students. I remember I was teaching earlier, and some students would just give me random excuses, and then when I get other ways to check if that's actually what they told me, is it true and everything, and then they'll be like, no ma'am, this ma'am, that ma'am. So I guess it's a bit of a playful period, and for some people a serious period as well. So I think I'm quite hopeful, sir, that people will eventually be able to come back, but just a little bit of push and encouragement and the belief that this is the temporary normal and that's actually the real normal.
Thank you.
I think since students are also here, any one student can tell about their perception or their view. So suppose what is their mindset now? So whether they are ready to come back to university. So any one student can respond.
Anyone can respond, students?
Yes, actually,
Yes.
we are seeing through for the reopening of college. But once the college reopens, all the students and even staffs, for some staffs, they require time in order to get used to the new normal. So,
Correct.
So we hope there will be some of the time for recovering to the new normal. But other than that, we foresee for the reopening of the colleges.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Sandhya madam, my concern is about the primary students. So primary children, children's who be in the initial first standard, second standard, like that. So now they are all little small kids. So they are at home for the last 2.5 years, and maybe this year also they will be at home. So nearly 2 years they are at home. So what will be their mindset? So especially I'm not, these people are all matured enough. Rahul is a matured student. So they may have some other view. But what about the maybe kindergarten students or the maybe primary section? So how to bring them back to the normal seats? I think it will be a very difficult task to the parents as well as to the teachers.
Actually, sir, if I may add to the as part of the previous question as well, gradual exposure is something that might work. In the sense, you'll have to increase the time period little by little. Like you can't say that you come and show up at college 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day or 7 hours a day. Prime them in advance and say, these many hours of attendance is mandatory in person, or these many number of days in a week is mandatory in person. So you can either leave the discretion to the students, or you can set guidelines on which days they're supposed to come. So it might be quite drastic for them to say that 7 hours a week, 7 days a week they're sitting at home, suddenly they have to be in college 5 days a week. So instead try and increase the exposure little by little, and then eventually of course go back to the way it was before. That's one thing. And another thing, like what sir mentioned right now, for primary students, actually sir, I think the difficulty will not be as much, because they don't know what it is like fully to go back to school, in the sense that they have been used to being at home and everything. But once they get started to school, they'll be able to adapt and patch quickly, unlike adults who know that I have been at work, I have been at home, so which one do I prefer more? But for students much younger age, they don't have the cognitive or intellectual capacity to process it so much. Initially, first 2 to 3 days they'll probably throw a fit, but after that it will definitely get much simpler. In fact, I think for younger ones it's much easier, but online teaching which has been happening right now could be the culprit here, because a lot of children can develop attention deficit and hyperactivity, because all the online learning and everything, the screen related gadget exposure works on the frontal lobe area. So the children tend to have short neural connections which can come off as hyperactivity, where they're not able to pay attention for too long. They're sitting in front of a gadget, they're expected to learn, and the concept of touch of a book or of pencil, so our brain actually wires how we connect our kinesthetic, that is our movement, to our visual perception. So these things are all lacking among students, especially the younger ones. So this results in hyperactivity. So the reason that they may not be willing to go to school once more may not fully be because of the not willing part. Actually, it may be because of other brain changes that has happened by now in 1.5 years, especially 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and kids like that. Until 6 years, it's extremely essential that gadgets is kept completely at bay, and only they are allowed to be with people physically. So these may be the reasons, but children have much better neural plasticity. That is, their brain adapts to the environment very quickly as compared to the older people. So those may be the things that you should keep in mind. And of course, children have their reason to go back, like I want to meet a friend, and I want to go back to my classroom. Those kind of things are there, except maybe for tests. But otherwise, I think it should be okay, sir.
Hello, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Second feedback.
Thank you very much, ma'am. There is a question in the chat box. It's a very typical question, like how can we self-diagnose anxiety and depression? Is it necessary to seek a professional help?
Okay. Okay, you can't self-diagnose anxiety and depression for sure. It's like saying, I went to the loo 3 times in the night. I have sweating, and I'm giddy. I'm diabetic. You can't do that on your own. You have to be able to access professional help. And when you talk about diagnosis, yes, it comes with a set of symptoms that you will be identified with. But when it comes to help, what kind of help you need is something that you can take a call on along with the professional. So for anything in the mild, borderline to clinical mild range of depression or anxiety, you may be able to get better with just a few counseling sessions without medical intervention. But depending on the severity of symptoms and the number of symptoms and the impact it has on the person's activities and so on, they may be directed to a psychiatrist who may give you antidepressants or anxiolytics, and then only be able to overcome that along with counseling on the side. So counseling is always a long-term therapy, and psychiatric medication is the short-term therapy. Even if you go ahead and self-diagnose yourself, I'm not too sure what will come out of it. Like after the diagnosis, then what? So yes, you will have to get help.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think we have almost come to the end of the question answer sessions. Of course, I've been reading through various reactions in the chat box, and there were very especially like heartfelt reactions with respect to deaths during the COVID. Like you are all alone, you cannot be the part of the last funeral rites. It was a certain comments were there actually. They're saying like COVID deaths, there is no time to say goodbye to a loss or death. It is sudden.
Yeah, exactly.
With this, I conclude my question and answer session. Now it's back to Rahul.
It's sure that we will cope with anything and everything, including COVID version 3.0, fingers crossed, and blowing with amazing answers, ma'am. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. A. Srikrishnan, sir, for coping with the question and answer sessions. Last but not the least, I kindly invite Professor Dr. K.R. Vijaykumar, sir, to conclude with a vote of thanks.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, 1.5% here. It gives me immense pleasure to vote of thanks for this webinar on taking care of self during COVID. On behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Ms. Sandhya Sivakumar, clinical psychologist, Turiya's Psychological Services, Chennai, for her wonderful and useful presentation on this present scenario. I wish to express my deep sense of gratitude to Engineer A.C. Saran Kumar, President, for his constant support to conduct such events. I would like to acknowledge our gratitude to Dr. D. Viswanathan, Rector, for his inaugural address. I express my sincere thanks to our HOD, Dr. M. Ganesan, for presenting the welcome address, and additional HOD, Dr. N. Ithiraj, for introducing the chief guest. I express my sincere thanks to the event organizers, Mr. Vinod, Sri Krishnan, and all my colleagues for their constant involvement and support. Last but not least, I thank all participants to make this occasion grand success. Thank you.
Thank you for the repeating, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking time out.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a great day, ma'am.
HOD, sir.
HOD, sir. Ganesan, sir.
HOD is not there?
Can we leave, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
If he is there, HOD is there means he can.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Sir, Ganesan, sir.
Yes, tell me.
Yeah, session is over, sir.
Any concluding remarks, sir, if any?
Vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Rahulji, for hosting this program.
Okay, thank you.
Very well communication.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you, sir. Close பண்ணிடலாம் வினோத்.
Feedback has been posted in the link, has been posted in the chat box. Those please fill up the feedback link.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Vinod.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sri Krishnan, Vinod, and other team members. And what about the L Ramesh group?
Mr. Prasanna, sir.
Prasanna, sir.
He's the host. I don't know. He has neutral, sir. I will just. Yeah, he's there. I will just call him.
Call him. We will thank him for the timely help.
சொல்லுங்க sir.
ரொம்ப thanks, ma. Thank you so much.
Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma. Okay, thank you all.
You can close the session, ma.
Yeah.
Prasanna. Recording stop பண்ணிக்கலாம். Okay.
Recording stop பண்ணுங்க.
சரி sir.
Okay.
Thanks, ma. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Bye, Vinod.